Somewhere off the coast of ancient Italy, a slab of concrete has been sitting underwater for 2,000 years. It has not crumbled. It has not dissolved. By every rule modern engineers know, it should be getting weaker. Instead, it is getting stronger. Meanwhile, a modern concrete parking garage built 40 years ago is already being condemned. So what did the Romans know about concrete that we still have not fully figured out? Start with the boldest proof of all, a dome in the middle of Rome. This is the Pantheon. Poured and set nearly 2,000 years ago, it is still, to this day, the largest unreinforced concrete dome on Earth. No steel bars, no rebar cage, just concrete, holding its own weight against gravity for 2 millennia. Modern engineers have run the numbers on that dome more than once, and it keeps producing an uncomfortable answer. By the textbook rules we use today, a dome this size, this thin at the top, unreinforced, should not have lasted this long. Yet it has outlived every empire, invasion, and earthquake since the 2nd century. Somewhere in the mixture the builders used, there is a property modern concrete simply does not have. Look closely at that coiffured ceiling. Each sunken square panel is not decoration. It is missing material, carved away exactly where the dome could spare the weight, while leaving full strength in the ribs between the coffers. Modern engineers call this optimizing a structure. The Romans were doing it by eye, in stone, 2,000 years early. The oculus at the very top is not a design flourish either. The dome thins dramatically as it rises, from more than 6 meters of concrete at the base to barely 1 meter at the crown, and the open ring at the top acts like a compression collar, holding the thinning structure together instead of letting it collapse inward. And the dome is only half of it. The real puzzle is not what the Romans built on land. It is what they built in the sea. 2,000 years ago, Roman engineers did something modern builders still consider reckless. They mixed concrete, loaded it onto barges, and poured it directly into open seawater, on purpose. Modern concrete hates seawater. Salt water seeps into the pores, corrodes any embedded metal, and the whole structure spalls apart from the inside within a few decades. Marine engineers spend fortunes trying to keep the ocean away from their concrete. The Romans built entire harbors this way anyway. At Caesarea, on the coast of what is now Israel, engineers underheard the Great poured an artificial harbor straight into open water, one of the largest ever attempted in the ancient world. At Caesarea, Herod's engineers went even further. They shipped the volcanic ash itself more than 1,000 miles from the Bay of Naples to the coast of Judea, because no comparable pozzolan existed locally. An entire supply chain, ships, quarries, and mixing crews, existed for one purpose: getting the right ash to the right harbor. Further north, at Portus Cosenus on the Italian coast, and at the resort town of Baiae near Naples, Roman builders sank concrete piers and warehouse foundations directly onto the seabed, decade after decade, port after port. Vitruvius himself explained the trick that made this possible. Ordinary lime mortar needs to dry out in open air to harden, which is exactly why you cannot use it underwater. Roman pozzolana concrete does the opposite. Packed wet into wooden forms and lowered straight into the sea, it actually needs the water to set at all. Almost all of it is still there. Divers today swim through underwater warehouses and harbor walls that have sat on the seabed since before the fall of Rome, and the concrete around them has not washed away. Here is the detail that should stop you cold. Core samples pulled from these harbors show the concrete inside is often denser and harder near the surface exposed to seawater than deeper inside the block. The very water that destroys modern marine concrete in a human lifetime appears to be feeding whatever process is happening inside Roman concrete. Feeding it, not fighting it. So we have a dome that should not stand and harbors that should not survive their own location. Both point to the same unanswered question. To understand why that question matters, look at the concrete going up around us right now. The concrete in most modern bridges, buildings, and seawalls is designed to last 50 to 100 years. In practice, plenty of it starts failing decades sooner, especially anywhere near salt water or salted winter roads. The mechanism is almost always the same story. Water finds a hairline crack, reaches the embedded steel rebar inside, and the steel rusts. Rust expands. Expanding rust cracks the concrete open wider from the inside, and the cycle accelerates. Every single major coastal city on Earth is currently spending billions of dollars replacing concrete infrastructure that is barely older than the people who built it. And here is the frustrating part for any structural engineer who has looked closely at Rome: we are not lacking effort. We have poured trillions of tons of concrete since the 19th century, with constant refinement of the formula. We simply have not matched the one property that matters most here. Not strength on day one. Durability across centuries, and the world's coastlines are the ones paying the ongoing repair bill. So what is actually different about the Roman recipe? The first clue was hiding in plain sight for 2,000 years, written down by a Roman engineer himself. A Roman architect named Vitruvius wrote a technical manual, De Architectura, describing how to make what he called opus cementitium. He specifically recommended mixing lime with a particular volcanic ash, and he named exactly where to find the best of it. The ash came from a town on the Bay of Naples called Pozzuoli, in the volcanic region known as the Campi Flegrei, near Vesuvius. Roman builders shipped this specific reddish-brown volcanic ash by the boatload across the empire, just for concrete. Modern chemists call this kind of material a pozzolan, named for that very town. It reacts with lime and water in a way ordinary sand and gravel never will. Chemically, the reason is specific. Volcanic ash is mostly amorphous glass, aluminum and silica atoms locked in a disordered structure instead of a hard crystal lattice, and the disorder makes it reactive. Mixed with lime, it forms dense calcium-aluminum silicate bonds, a more complex mineral glue than the simple calcium silicate hydrate holding modern cement together. Ordinary modern cement is mostly limestone, heated and ground fine. It is cheap, fast, and reliable, and it built the 20th century. But the chemistry stops evolving once it cures. It hardens once, and after that it can only wear down. The Roman lime and volcanic ash mixture does something almost the opposite, and the reason took modern science until the last decade to actually confirm. A team of geologists and engineers, including researchers from MIT and the University of Utah, spent years pulling core samples from Roman harbor walls and running them through electron microscopes back in the laboratory. Inside the samples they found small white mineral chunks the Romans themselves had left behind, embedded throughout the concrete. For a century, these were dismissed by scholars as sloppy mixing, a sign the Romans hadn't blended their materials properly. The research team suspected the opposite, that these lumps, called lime clasts, were not a mistake at all. They were the key ingredient, left there on purpose, whether the Romans understood the full chemistry or not. Here is the reveal that changed the debate. Testing showed the Romans were likely mixing their lime the hot way, using raw quicklime instead of pre-slaked lime, at scorching temperatures. That hot mixing process is what created those lime clasts scattered through the concrete, brittle, reactive pockets of unreacted lime, sealed inside the hardened structure like tiny time capsules. The team, led by MIT materials scientist Admir Masick working with Harvard collaborators, proved it a different way. They cracked lab-made samples containing lime clasts, ran water directly through the fracture, and watched the crack fill itself with new crystal growth within 2 to 3 weeks. The same trick the Romans built in by accident, replayed on a lab bench in real time. Now fast forward 2,000 years. A hairline crack finally opens in the concrete, the way cracks always eventually do. Rainwater or seawater seeps in and reaches one of those old lime pockets. And the lime clast wakes back up. It reacts with the water on the spot, dissolving and recrystallizing into new mineral growth that spreads through the crack and fills it back in, from the inside, on its own, with no repair crew ever involved. The Romans, without knowing the chemistry, had built a self-healing material. Every crack came preloaded with its own repair kit, ready to activate the moment it was needed. That explains the dry side of the mystery. But the underwater harbors needed something extra, because seawater brings its own chemistry into the mix. When Roman volcanic ash concrete meets seawater specifically, the reaction produces a rare mineral called aluminous tobermorite, and another related mineral called philipsite, both of which grow as interlocking platycrystals over years, not days. These crystals do not just fill gaps. They interlock and reinforce the material at a microscopic scale, actually increasing the concrete's fracture resistance the longer it sits in seawater. In laboratory tests, geologists have grown this exact tobermorite crystal in modern reproductions of the Roman mix, and confirmed it strengthens the surrounding material rather than weakening it. In other words, the ocean, the exact environment that destroys nearly every modern marine structure ever poured, is the specific trigger that makes ancient Roman harbor concrete grow stronger over time. It sounds almost too elegant to be real, and yet it is sitting on the floor of the Mediterranean right now, and has been for 2,000 years. So if scientists have finally cracked the formula, why isn't every seawall on Earth being poured in Roman-style concrete tomorrow? The honest answer is that knowing the formula and reproducing it at industrial scale are two very different problems. First, the specific volcanic ash the Romans used is not some generic material. Its exact mineral composition is tied to specific deposits, some of it from Pozzuoli, some from volcanic regions the Romans controlled, and modern supply chains do not easily replicate everywhere on Earth. Second, hot mixing with raw quicklime at the temperatures researchers now believe the Romans used is dangerous and difficult to control precisely at industrial scale. It is a harder, riskier process than modern cement plants are built around. Third, and this is the part that stalls most large engineering projects, Roman-style concrete cures and sets much more slowly than modern Portland cement, sometimes taking far longer to reach comparable strength. Modern construction runs on speed. Skyscrapers, highways, and bridges are built to strict fast-moving schedules, and modern cement is prized specifically because it reaches usable strength within days. A material that takes far longer to fully cure does not fit that economic model easily. So for now, most of the world keeps pouring concrete that we know, on current trend, will need costly replacement within a human lifetime, because the faster material wins the bid every single time. There is also a carbon cost hiding inside that speed. Modern cement production alone is responsible for a significant share of global industrial carbon emissions, largely from the intense heat needed to produce it fast, at scale, on demand. Every building we tear down after 50 years and repower is not just a repair bill. It is another full carbon cost, paid again, for a structure that could, in principle, have lasted centuries the first time. To put a number on it, cement production alone is responsible for roughly 8% of all human carbon emissions on Earth, more than the entire global aviation industry combined. And unlike a plane ticket, that carbon cost gets paid again and again, every time a modern structure fails early and has to be repaired. Several research groups and a small number of pilot projects have started testing volcanic ash-based concrete blends for select marine and infrastructure projects, specifically chasing the self-healing property Rome left behind. If it scales successfully, the payoff is enormous: seawalls, bridges, and foundations that could last centuries instead of decades, with a fraction of the ongoing repair cost and carbon footprint of constant rebuilding. But today, right now, the fully proven version of that material is still the original. Poured by hand, 2,000 years ago, with no laboratory and no electron microscope in sight. There is a broader pattern worth noticing here, one that shows up again and again across the ancient world, not just in concrete. Modern industry is very good at optimizing for one thing: initial cost and speed to market. It is far less good, structurally and economically, at optimizing for something that only pays off over centuries. The Romans built empires with a multi-generation mindset baked directly into their infrastructure. Aqueducts, roads, and harbors meant to outlast the men who ordered them built, by centuries, not decades. We plan municipal budgets in 4-year election cycles and corporate roadmaps in fiscal quarters. It is not that we lack the knowledge Rome had. In this case, we may have simply lost the incentive to build for the next 1,000 years instead of the next 10. Let's return to that harbor wall on the seabed, sitting quietly under the waves this very moment. Every wave that rolls over it is not eroding it. By the chemistry we now understand, that same seawater is still, quietly, actively strengthening it, crystal by microscopic crystal, the exact same process that began the day it was poured. 2,000 years of tide, storm, and salt, and the structure is, by some measures, tougher today than the day the Romans finished pouring it. That is the piece modern engineering is still chasing. Not simply matching Rome's strength. Matching a material that heals itself and grows stronger the longer it survives contact with the very element meant to destroy it. The dome that should have fallen is still standing over Rome. The harbor walls that should have washed away are still holding back the sea. Both were built from a formula written on a scroll, mixed by hand, using volcanic ash from one specific stretch of Italian coastline. Modern science can now explain, in exact mineral terms, why it worked. What we still cannot do, not yet, is build it at the speed and scale the modern world demands of every project. Until that changes, the strongest, longest-lasting concrete ever poured on Earth is not something we are making today. It is something we are still trying to catch up to, 2,000 years later. Not a lost formula, exactly. A found one, sitting in plain view for 2,000 years, in a manuscript nobody fully understood until modern chemistry finally caught up to a Roman engineer's instructions. Not weaker with age. Stronger. Still healing. Still growing. Still holding, long after everyone who built it is gone.